Now, while there are activists gluing themselves to the street in order to prevent people from passing, there are also other types of activists that do a little bit of mischief in order to spark the conversation online. Here we have a man highlighting something that I definitely found dystopian. It was a massive culture shock when I went to London. There are certain places where you cannot pay with cash at all. They will not accept cash. You need to have the blessings of a bank in order to be able to make a purchase.
Tract and act to buy anything. I'm going to buy some strawberries and I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money, £1.90, and I will take my strawberries outside. If you want to call the police, call the police.
I love how they want to call the police over £1.90 worth of goods. I don't think like they're having an issue with their store being robbed or with the fact that this is going to cause some massive damage. No, I think it's the principle. I think like they are upset that more people may start doing this. Like more people may insist that they will pay with cash. The man obviously wants the police to be called because he's an activist. Like he wants to raise a stink about it. It's what activists do. And what's interesting is that unlike the Just Stop Oil or other type of activists that are damaging historical paintings or gluing themselves to the wall, when you go into the comment section, both on Reddit and on Twitter, the overwhelming amount of people are in support of this, which to me shows that this is an ideology pushed by the nobility upon the peasantry. Like it's clearly a class thing. Like most people do not want to live in a society where their cash doesn't have value. But the nobility wants you to live in a society where cash doesn't have value. And this is literally what it's about. It's ideological. It's purely ideological. It's not, economical in nature.
You can't take that. Police are on their way.
I don't like, you can't take that. Police are on their way. It's £1.90. Like, what do you think the police is going to do to him? Like, they're not going to arrest him or anything. It's like probably a small fine. It's interesting because like when you had the massive riots in the United States, they were like, human life is more important than property, and it's insured, it's got insurance. And while of course we are talking about a different country, the leftists on Twitter are universal. Like there were people in Britain that were supporting the damage that was happening in the United States and they were justifying it, but for some reason they don't seem to have a word to speak out against this. They don't seem to have any problems with corporations taking away the rights of citizens. And the reason that it's taking away the rights of citizens is taking away your right to privacy. Like basically what they want in a cashless society is to be able to monitor every single purchase that you do, to the point where if you just zoom in on a person, if they buy everything with credit, then you'll see exactly what they bought, where they bought it, at what time did they buy it. They want to be able to control how people can spend their money. We see them actually talking about this when implementing the digital currency. And I will show you at the end of the video with what's happening in China right now, so you can see how the system looks like when it's perfected, when it's applied in the way it is to be intended. Because right now, this is just the alpha stages. It's like a couple of stores doing it just to test how people react to it. And they probably do not enjoy this at all. They do not like to see any negativity coming from the public against it.
I paid by legal tender.
No, don't break the door. Do not break the door.
I paid by legal tender and I...
Again, it's painfully obvious that the man wasn't there with the intention of shopping, and they weren't there to be upset that £1.90 worth of goods were being taken away while being paid for. This is all for show. This is all for activism and raising a conversation.
I'm going out with my strawberries and I'm going to eat them.
Doesn't it sound like most people are applauding? Again, like this is what you get in the comment section too? Like everyone is cheering for him?
My strawberries, I paid by legal tender in this dystopian place.
He called it dystopian. Very interesting.
Okay.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because you should be able to, spin your eye, wouldn't you?
The reason he is staying here, I believe, is because he wants to be arrested. Like, he wants this to be turned into a scene.
You should be able to spend wherever you want. This is an absolute joke.
You want one, mate?
Yeah, like, look, people on the street are agreeing with him. Now let's watch how the system looks like when it's perfected.
A green code on the health app is also required for buses and subways. Even access to apartments is now monitored. Everyone in Beijing lives within a gated compound, with only one entrance. There are checkpoints everywhere. Wang Yu lives in the Beijing suburbs. Only after a heated argument do the security guards allow her into her own building without a scan. All visitors must also log in. No one knows what will happen tomorrow. Maybe the guard won't let me through, and I won't be able to get in. And this is all illegal.
You know, it reminds me of the California shops where everything is locked down. Wouldn't that solve a problem if you could just have like a facial recognition and you show your face and the door opens and then you take what you want to buy from there? I mean, that would create the convenience again, wouldn't it? And it would also keep the things away from being taken. Of course, it's just a suggestion. The problem is, like, many people will say, well, this will never happen in Britain, right? Like, this will never happen in the United States. The question that I have is, like, what would prevent it from happening? Like, if they legitimately wanted to implement it, what would stop it from taking place? What exactly would happen that the people would have the power to say no? I mean, we saw during the pandemic how people reacted to a lot of measures that seem fascistic. For example, showing your papers to a McDonald's worker so that you can sit down and have something to eat. Right? Showing documents and showing papers was considered fascist, wasn't it? But now, apparently, it's fine. I find it very interesting. And I also find it interesting that people don't seem to care that much. Take into account that in China, it was last year that they wanted to make a protest on the banks. So it wasn't even against the government. It was like average citizens wanting to protest against the banks. They turned their health pass red. So even though they weren't sick with COVID, they made their health pass red so that they wouldn't be able to take public transport. So even if they had money, right, they had cash, they could pay, the transaction couldn't take place because their health pass was red. Now, also interesting is how there is a push to take away people's ability to have private cars. So you are now relying on public transport, and in order to use the public transport, you need to have the correct documents and the correct electronic identification, which they can shut down. So the question is, like, how are you going to be able to do massive protests? Like, let's say the government does something bad. How can you protest? How can you gather? How can you do anything? It's very concerning, isn't it? But for some reason, most people aren't concerned, so maybe I'm just exaggerating. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.